This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a chilly northeastern part of South Africa. It's colder than it normally is. You can see there's a bit of a wind blowing, but that hasn't stopped some of our animals being out and about already. As you can see, there's an impala, there's some zebras, and it seems to be the perfect start to our afternoon. Now, before we get into all of these things and discuss all of these animals, my name is Tristan. On camera, I've got Alex this afternoon, and it is a very, very warm welcome to all of you that are watching, but especially the kids that are watching all around the world. This first 45 minutes is dedicated to all of you, so remember that you can ask all the questions that you want to ask, and you can do so using kids' questions at WildEarth.tv, and we'll try and answer as many as we can. Now, these zebras, I'm sure, are enjoying the fact that they can be out in the open, even though it's kind of early afternoon. Normally at this time of the afternoon, a few days ago even, it was hot and they would have been very uncomfortable. They would have had to find some shade to stand in. But now, because of this really cold breeze that's blowing, and the fact that it's very cold today, it means that they can stand right out in the open and they can eat on this nice nutritious grass that they find here, as well as be able to look out for any predators. Often when it's very windy like this, the predators will try and hunt them down even during the day, and so much easier for them to see what's going on in these kind of clearings, and basically find this area for the night. It's not just the two of them. There are two there, and then there's another two to the right of them, which is nice to see. I haven't seen too many zebras around in the last few weeks. Not that they are hugely common here, just given the terrain that we have. It's generally a little bit too thick for them, but we normally see some kind of hanging around quarantine, this open clearing or sandy patch or down on Philemon's cut line, but they've been a bit scarce, so I don't know where these guys have come from. In fact, actually there's more of them. I see some more to the right of those ones even, which is cool. There used to be a herd that used to hang around here all the time, and they got so used to us actually on foot that you'd be able to get really, really close, which was quite nice. All right, well, we're going to think about what we're going to do this afternoon. I haven't quite decided just yet. I think we might try and find Tingana. And so while we do that, let's send you to andBeyond in Ngala and see how Eric's doing. Sounds like he's already started off with a bang this afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to andBeyond in Ngala. My name is Eric, and behind camera, as always, is Owen. This afternoon, we've started off really well. We came down into the riverbed to see if we could find tracks of that leopard we heard rasping from this morning. Haven't found the tracks yet, so we're still on the search, but we do have this beautiful herd of elephants that is next to the road over here, and they are just peacefully feeding in the area. There's a very small one that's hiding itself behind a bush quite effectively, but I'm sure it will show itself quite soon. It's actually, if you can see it there, it's using its trunk very effectively for such a youngster. See how it's lifting it up and it's scooping into its mouth again. That tree is called a magic guarri, and I wonder if there's small little berries that it's after. Very, very sweet little berries that might be trying to pick at. Otherwise, they don't usually eat a tree like that. I have just seen that there is another tree that it might be going after, actually. Part of the Vachelia or the acacia species, so that might be more tasty than a magic guarri. You can only see the three of them. There's another youngster at the back. There's this adult female. She's scratching her ear. She comes a little bit closer. Might just move. Let's see if we can get into a position here. Especially with a youngster, we just like to give them a little bit more space than what might seem necessary. But we've got a nice little gap here, you see. There we go. That better, huh? Really nice. Now the youngster's right next to the mother. And Owen pointed it out a little bit earlier how petite looking those tusks of hers are. And they are nice and long, but they're very thin and very, very sharp. And they grow straight down. Looks like she's actually using her trunk to smell some good grass. She was walking, she stopped, and then she reversed a little bit. I'm sure she sniffed out some pretty nutritious grass that she's after. And I mean, at this time of year, you wouldn't imagine them to really be focusing too much on grass. It's literally, it's a young sapling, that's what it is. It's not grass at all. And this is the time of year where their diet will completely change from feeding a lot on grass to mostly feeding on things like these young saplings, on the bark of trees, and pushing trees over and feeding on the roots even. And it's just amazing how she knew exactly what the smell was, that it was good to eat, and she just went straight for it. And I'm sure there are others around. It's quite dense around this area. Kartik, you asking if elephants use water as sunscreen. I don't think they use it as effectively as we do as sunscreen, but they'll use it to cool themselves down rather. And in that way, they protect themselves from the sun. So when on a very, very hot day, typically in summertime, you might even find a whole herd of elephants coming down to water to swim. And if they still feel that like they're too hot, and what they'll do instead of water is actually within that little mud wallow or whatever that they're swimming in, they'll scrape up and get some nice mud to splash onto their body. And they'll use the mud rather than the water to protect their skin. So that mud creates quite a hard layer over their body, and as the sun dries it, it cracks or it dries up. And sometimes it will even get little ticks and parasites stuck onto that mud. And so it serves for a few different purposes. It's a nice protection from the sun, like you say, and then it also protects them from getting over infested by ticks and parasites. There, that little one crosses the road. See a much bigger one in the back there. I mean, it's just the one adult and the small one with see, that one's got tusks. So, I mean, probably in the region of 3 or 4 years old, if I had to guess. So it might even be the offspring of the one that we've just seen crossing. And that's why they're so grouped together, which will mean that the whole herd is scattered through this area. It's quite a dense area, so we were lucky to just see 1 or 2 of them crossing the road here. But I think we'll probably leave these elephants. They're going to go into an area where we can't see them anymore. And from here, just drive the riverbed, see if we can find tracks of that female leopard, and if not, then eventually at around 4:30, 5 o'clock, we'll make our way back towards the pride, and hope everyone's got their fingers crossed and holding thumbs that maybe we get to hear them calling like myself and Owen did this morning, and hopefully we'll get to show you them calling. So whilst we're driving looking for tracks, we'll send you across to Tswali Kalahari, and we'll let David say hello to you this afternoon.
Look at that beautiful. Oh, well, welcome back to Tswali Kalahari. I nearly just started chatting off about the Roan bull over there, but Yandra and I are out here trying to find you guys some good stuff again. It's actually a warm afternoon. Maybe not warm according to me. I mean, I've still got a whole lot of layers on, but it's improving rapidly. And this afternoon we got some really, really cool stuff under our sleeves for you, but we'll keep you in suspense. I'm not going to give it away just yet. But on the way to what we're actually planning on finding, we got this beautiful little herd of springbuck and a roan bull in the background there. But we'll look at those animals, eh? So it's mostly females in that herd. And you'll see they're stopping and feeding every now and again, heads down, and occasionally one of them will nibble a little bit higher up. They'll actually feed on grass when it is available and it's green. But when it's dry like this, and you can see, I mean, there's no green grass to speak of over here, then they'll actually switch over to forbs and bushes more regularly. So those ones you see the one that's feeding with its head down there, that's actually going for, there's still a number of like forbs actually growing flat on the ground. and that gives them enough sustenance, you know, that'll actually tide them right through the dry season, feeding on things like that. Amazing how they move as one body. Emma, the guide's favorite, my favorite animal on safari. Wow, that is an incredibly difficult question to answer because I have so many favorites, because every single species, doesn't matter, and I'm including plants in this kind of thing, has something really special about it. Its unique survival strategies, the way it's evolved to cope with these kind of environments. Whether it's a springbok or roan bull over there, or a meerkat, or any kind of snake or tree or anything. I mean, every single one is special in its own way. So I really can't answer that question and say, well, I have one favorite. And guests often laugh at me because, you know, I get that question, what's your favorite animal? And like every second one I get to, oh, this is my favorite, and it's the coolest thing. It's like, well, yeah, you know, I've just got so many favorites. So beautiful afternoon. So they're just carrying on feeding over there. And these are probably going to end up sleeping down near the next set of meerkat burrows where the macalas used to be this week. So I see their droppings and tracks have been around there a lot early in the mornings. So while they head on, we're going to head in a different direction and pass you over to David at Djuma.
How's it, and welcome to your sunset safari on Djuma. Speaking of sunset, the sun is still very high, as you can see. I'm going to turn the corner, then I can look at you without squinting. BK and I have just left camp, and we are on a mission to find some exciting animals. My name is David Hancock. BK is going to be rolling the camera, and together we're going to make a good team this afternoon. And by the way, a very, very happy birthday to Samuel. May you have a blessed year ahead. So this afternoon, we're gonna quickly check the Moati and then head over in the direction of Treehouse Dam, where Tristan saw those buffalo and elephant this morning, see if we can relocate on them. Neil, you've asked, what do animals usually do during their free time, and you're from Virginia? Well, Neil, animals basically just survive, and survival requires three things: water, food, and shelter or protection, safety. So they spend a lot of time eating, depending on what kind of animals they are. If they're herbivores, they eat cellulose, plants and leaves and roots and bark and grass, all sorts of things like that. So they've got to eat a lot of it to get good nutrition in. So they spend the majority of their day eating. And then that feeding, eating is kind of dictated by water areas. So then they'll move from water to water or back to the same water, depending on the species. And then they require safety, so they spend a lot of time working their way through different areas, always on the lookout, always aware of their surroundings if they're herbivores. A little bit different for predators. They don't eat as much because they get so much protein out of the food that they eat. So they spend a little bit less time eating, but a little bit more time hunting and a lot of time resting. So to answer your question, they survive. Well, speaking about an animal that spends a lot of time eating, at the very, very top of the trees, let's send you over to Ngala with the giraffe.
We've just come onto the road that runs parallel to the river, and we've got this beautiful, beautiful giraffe. He looked like he was threatening to move off, but he's just stopped, and now he's basically watching where it looks like his partner might have moved off to. We had such a nice close-up. He was feeding on a knobthorn, and then as we came, he lifted up his head, and he was debating whether to move off or to stay feeding. But I think that his companions decided to move, and so he's probably just going to stick with them and follow. He's got a very interesting pattern about a third of the way down his neck from his head. And there's a very distinctive change in color there. It goes from a pretty normal, typical giraffe color to a very, very dark color. And I wonder if this isn't maybe him. I mean, if you look at the top of his head, he's still got quite a lot of hair around the top of his horns or his ossicones, which means that he's still quite young. Once he starts fighting more, that hair is just going to fall off, and his head will get much more lumpy. So he's a young male in his prime, I would say, and more than likely going to start changing into a bit of a darker color. And I wonder if it's not going to start from that little patch and work its way down its neck. It's a nice view of it there. It's very, very distinct. It's almost like a birthmark in a way. See if I can get another view before he goes again. He's moving over towards a tree now, which looks like he might start feeding, so we'll get hopefully an uninterrupted view for now. Seems like there's quite a nice little gap. If I reverse back just a little bit more, there we go. So he's walked past several different large green trees that I mentioned that elephant was feeding on, and I thought, well, it doesn't seem like it should be feeding on it, and it walked straight towards a tree with nice long thorns on it. And these ones have actually got hook thorns. So all part of the acacia or the Vachelia or Senegalia family, much more nutritious, especially at this time of year. So that's where most of his energy will be put, is moving from these different types of thorn trees. I find it quite interesting how he uses different techniques to feed on different trees. So this one now doesn't really have any thorns on, so he's quite comfortable to just use his tongue and lips, and he gets his head right in there. If he was feeding on the thorn tree that we've just seen him leaving, he'll be a lot more delicate and precise. He'll use his tongue to wrap around small little branches or pluck with his lips. But in this one, he's getting right in there. Nandini, you asking why the skin of the giraffe looks like that? And it just, I guess in the simplest way, I think it just helps, just like a lion, I mean, like a zebra's stripes or a leopard's spots, it helps break out the outline of the giraffe. I've read some studies recently where they've been able to put thermal imaging cameras onto the giraffe, and they've noticed that the hotter parts of the giraffe are around those little hexagonal shapes, and the cooler parts are around the white parts around it. And so they think that there's quite an intricate series of veins and capillaries that are transferring the blood from patch to patch to try and help the whole giraffe cool down its body. And one of the theories I read is that's one of the reasons why they've evolved to have such a long neck, so they can have more of those patches and they can cool themselves down a little bit more. One of the nice things about the development in technology is you get to see these things that we didn't get to see 10, 15 years ago. I mean, the thermal imaging cameras that we have nowadays are incredibly good. And so that we're picking up things that we wouldn't really have known 10, 15 years ago. So that's one of the studies I've read. I mean, I think breaking the outline, you might think it would be something like that. But then again, giraffe you find in open grasslands where it's pretty easy to pick out giraffe from a very distance, especially because of their shape. And you can see them from a distance pretty much in any habitat. Turning into the sun there nicely, and I don't know if you saw that very long tongue. He almost licked his lips as he started feeding on that tree. Etienne's asking about the huge bulb underneath its neck. And I'm not quite sure what you mean there, Etienne. I mean, if anything, it might just be the shoulders and the chest of the giraffe, if that's the big bulge on the neck that you're talking about, or maybe the shoulder blade. Yeah, cool. I mean, it's a lot more apparent now. I mean, at the bottom of the neck, there's that big little, that big hump. So that's basically where the neck ends and the back starts. So it's nice and thick there, and I mean, this male uses his neck to fight. Oh, thanks, Londeka. So Londeka is just helping me then, and she's saying that it's more than likely you're thinking about the Adam's apple of the giraffe, which is right at the throat and the jaw. And one of the amazing things with giraffe is when you're watching them feed like this, they chew and chew and chew, and then when they swallow, you can literally see the semi-digested food moving down the throat. And it's a pretty good angle now for us to see it. So if we see it, you have to look quite carefully sometimes. And then that would be the Adam's apple, basically moving the semi-chewed stuff down into the first chamber of the stomach. Okay, it stopped. It's still chewing. I don't know if the angle was particularly good there because he twisted a bit. It's very interesting. I mean, this is the 4th species of tree that we've seen him feeding on this afternoon. And this is a tree known as a tambuoti tree, which a lot of people would probably recognize the name. And this tree's got latex in it, which is poisonous to people. But these giraffe like taking in the extra toxins. It helps break down the fiber, helps put in little, I guess, more bacteria to aid with digestion. neck. Look at the angles of it. There's like a big kink in the neck about halfway along. Joel's asking where the rest of the giraffe are, and we saw this male with one other male giraffe, which I think he might be able to see. We don't have as high a vantage point, so we can't see him around. But Joel, males tend to be more solitary than females, and so they're quite happy to be by themselves. And what they'll basically do is meander around the area, and then if they see some females from a distance, they'll probably head over towards a group of females to see if there's any that might be ready to mate. And so you'll often see giraffe by themselves like this. I mean, even giraffe with youngsters or female giraffe will be by themselves sometimes. They don't really have a very fixed social structure like that herd of elephants that we saw. You know, there's the matriarch, and then she's got her offspring, and the herd is a very close-knit group. These giraffe will meander in and out, and if they see other giraffe, they'll come in and socialize for a bit, and then they'll leave again. So they're not really a true herd species or a true family. I think one of the main reasons is because these males will have to compete for females, and it is very, very taxing on their bodies, and you can see how long that neck is and how big and robust those haws are. So whilst we stick around this giraffe, I'm pretty sure we'll leave it within the next 10 minutes or so, but we will send you across to Djuma and see what David's up to.
Well, BK and I are trying to find some very angry sounding elephant. They have been trumpeting and screaming and going crazy somewhere here. We saw one of the bulls, but he didn't want to be seen. We had a look at him and he walked off. And now we're just trying to find the youngsters that are screaming. I'm assuming it's a youngster, could be an adult. And who knows why they're screaming. There's so many reasons. Elephants are very diverse in their vocalizations and their emotions. But the bush is very thick here and I can't seem to find them again. I had a glimpse of the back of one on the other side, but they seem to have become ninjas. Well, it'd be very interesting to, I'm sure we'll find them. And then we'll see what the reason for their screaming is. Elephants, like I said, are very emotional, and they, for no reason, sometimes trumpet, and sometimes it could be a predator, sometimes one of the babies trips and falls and the mother gets a fright, or a number of things. So always interesting to see what the cause of their agitation is. The best thing for us to do now is to just sit here for another minute or two and listen, because they are close and we should hear another trumpet or maybe just some branches snapping as they feed. It'll give away their location. Not hearing anything. Eva, age 9, welcome to the show. You've asked, would elephants eat a banana? It's a very good question. I think they would. I had a banana this afternoon and it was delicious, so I can't see why an elephant wouldn't think the same. But I know from naughty elephants that have broken out of game reserves and gone to farms that their favorite is actually citrus, which is like oranges. Oranges are their favorite. They don't have to even peel their oranges, they just eat them whole. They really like oranges. Fruit is definitely a favorite of elephants and other animals out here that we call browsers, meaning they eat leaves and seed pods and fruits. fruits are normally the sweetest thing they can find, so I'm sure a banana would also be tasty. Dominique from Canada, you're 9 years old. Thank you for your question. You've asked what are elephant tusks made of? And they're made of something called ivory, which is a unique substance. It's quite similar to teeth, I suppose you could say. It's not keratin, which is like compressed hair. Ivory is much harder. And elephant tusks are unique in that I suppose you could call like hippo, those big hippo canines, ivory in a similar way, but I believe it's a little bit different than elephant tusks. Elephant tusks themselves are very hard. I'm not exactly sure what the compound or the chemical is called that makes it up. Maybe like dentine, like your teeth, but it is very hard, very heavy. Well, hopefully, oh, there's some ivory. Speaking of elephants, that looks like an elephant with big ivory. I just spotted him through the bush, quite a long ways away. So give us about 10 seconds and we'll be able to give you a little look of him, a shot. Ivory is something that people have cherished for thousands of years. They used it in trading, and unfortunately it led to exploitation of elephants. But thankfully now in this area we've protected them, and these guys are safe. Here's Mr. Elephant right in front of us, just behind that tree. Now he's hidden his face. Let me just move a little bit. Lots of elephants. That's the cause of the noise. We're just going to sit here a bit and watch them and see if they're showing any visible agitation. If not, it was probably nothing. One of them got a fright, or someone said something nasty to the other one. One elephant called the other elephant overweight. There's a youngster. Why don't we back up a little bit and go and see if we can get a better view. Let's have one more look here. Very cool. Glad we found them. Pays off sometimes to use your ears and just sit and listen a bit. And try and locate the source of the sound. Charis, he's 7 years old and from the UK. It's a very pretty name. You asked, what do elephants not like to eat? As you know, they're vegetarians, so they only eat plants. And what they don't like to eat? Charis, there are some plants out here that aren't very tasty. Try and think of something. But Charis, they pretty much eat most vegetation out here, just they kind of pick and choose. So you get, for instance, with grasses, you get sweet grasses that taste really nice to elephants, And then you get sour grasses that aren't so tasty, and they try and avoid those. Sometimes they will eat some of those sour grasses when it's bad conditions and there aren't any sweet grasses available. But it kind of depends on their smell and their taste of the specific plant or tree or grass or fruit. I hope that answers your question. They love grass, they definitely don't love steak, and they love fruit. There's that ivory we were talking about earlier. This is still a young bull, so those tusks still got lots of growing to do. They'll grow throughout his life. Most of the herd has moved behind us and they're heading to the road, so we're going to just back up out of here and see if we can have a nice look at the herd. While we're repositioning here to get a better look at these ellies, we're going to send you over to Swalo Kalahari for an update.
Going live. So we got something really cool here. We were actually on the track of a snake, and while we were following these snake tracks, we happened to see this other really cool little creature. I'm not going to go closer. I'm just going to point to this piece of grass, but have a look there, a little grasshopper. But he's actually burying himself in the sand. Look at that, you see that? Look how he's covering himself with sand. Have you ever seen a grasshopper do that? That is absolutely remarkable. So these little guys actually use it as a form of camouflage in these very, very exposed open environments. And they also lay their eggs under the sand. But I mean, look, as we're sitting here, he's just covering himself more and more and more and more. And he's not the only kind of animal that actually does that here. We've got a very, very special spider that lives in these areas, and if we are extremely lucky, we'll be able to find one for you, called a six-eyed desert crab spider. And that crab spider is a master of camouflage, and it does exactly in almost the same manner that this grasshopper is doing it, covers itself with sand. But look at that, as we've been sitting here, that little guy's disappeared in front of our eyes. That is absolutely amazing. And in terms of spiders, remember I said that name was a six-eyed desert crab spider. If we find it, we're going to try somehow. I'll make a plan to actually show you that it's got six eyes. It's so cool, so cool. But how's this grasshopper? Like right here, and it's disappeared. That is absolutely remarkable. It just shows you when you're out here, you have no idea what you're going to be passing. You know, every step that you take, there can be something hidden around you. That's brilliant, eh? It just shows that the challenges that sand presents in terms of it gets super hot. I mean, the surface temperature can come like very easily reach 60 plus degrees centigrade. And it, you know, we were saying the other day in terms of if you're a seed trying to germinate on this, it can be exceedingly difficult. But it also provides wonderful opportunities in terms of camouflage, because it's very easy to move it as a substrate, and thermoregulation. If you can get down a burrow, whether you're a snake or a meerkat or an aardvark or a pangolin or anything that burrows, that thermoregulation function of the sand, that ameliorating effect of the sand is just brilliant. I mean, you can't even see this little guy anymore. You know, if you walked past there, you wouldn't say there's any living creature underneath there. Look at that, huh? Wow, wow, wow. Let's see what he does now. He's hiding. Look at that. So if I was a bird, or the bird came hopping around here, just sits dead still, you wouldn't know. You could peck at grass, picking up seeds, or even looking for ants or termites to eat, and that grasshopper just sits dead still. It doesn't move, and the bird would move on, and the grasshopper remains. Lindeka says it's tucking itself in for bedtime. I can't think of anything worse than going into a sleeping bag full of sand. Imagine that. Well, I can kind of imagine worse things, but yeah, we'll stick with the sand. That's just incredible, eh? Wow. Ariel has just asked how many eggs does a grasshopper lay. My answer to that is I have absolutely no idea. But this evening, I'm actually going to find out for you, and I will give an answer tomorrow. It'll be really interesting. And I think I would guess, depending on the species, if you've got smaller ones that probably lay fewer eggs, and the large ones probably lay more. But I'm absolutely just going on a wild guess there. I know you get certain species that can lay a lot of eggs, and if you get numbers of those grasshoppers congregating in good years and laying eggs, they can actually hatch in masses, and then you get those huge swarms of locusts. That can obviously be a big problem for agriculture in some areas. We don't have those problems out here. There's also just so many things in these natural intact systems that can eat them. But just how remarkable is nature? You just never know what you're going to find. Or, if you don't know what you're looking for, what you're not going to find. Yeah. We're going to try carrying on finding the snake. It's going to be a long shot, but we never know. We won't tell you what snake it is. We might give you... I think we're going to show you the tracks and see if you can guess. But in the meantime, head over to David at Djuma with his ellies. Wow.
Welcome back. We've just found a nice little gap here in the trees. You hear that audio? Some more elephant talking there. Just sitting here and watching them move by. This is a decent sized herd. I haven't got an account yet, but by the sounds and sight of it, it seems to be a pretty decent size. I'm not sure if this was the same herd that Tristan saw this morning or not. Lots of youngsters. Sammy, 10 years old, you asked what kind of animal would hunt an elephant? The only animal that hunt elephant on a semi-regular basis are lion prides. Not just one lion, it would have to be a large pride with very strong males. It's very uncommon in our area here, but in more arid regions that I know of, specifically in areas of Botswana, there are actually prides that specialize in the hunting of elephant. It just takes a very coordinated attack, and they would generally single out younger or smaller animals. This mommy's coming to inspect us. Hey, we got no one, Kinga, with you. Why are you so angry? This mommy's got some serious attitude. See how she came to us with her head like that and that trot. Just checking us out, making sure that BK and I aren't going to do anything to her family. Ears out, being a bit menacing. Like I said earlier, a lot of emotion in elephants. She was clearly emotional about something. I actually think that female that just walked past us is quite pregnant. She has a youngster out there that's about the same, or about the right age for her to be pregnant, and she seems to be very large in the belly. Can't see her now. I'm gonna just move a little bit forward so that we can see her again. Perhaps that is the reason that she was so agitated. Mia, you're 10 years old. You've asked, how smart are elephants? Elephants are pretty smart, Mia. They definitely remember a lot. They remember certain routes through the bush. They know how to find water. They often use the same paths for many years. In old days, when they used to migrate much further north, they used to remember the exact routes. And they also seem to remember if people have annoyed them in the past. They seem to develop certain attitudes and habits towards people based on their experiences with them. Maybe people have chased them out of camps or used loud bangs or scared them, then they develop a bit of an attitude. So they're intelligent in that they seem to remember things. I think there is something to that saying about an elephant's memory. But that being said, compared to their body size, they don't have the biggest brains. So, yeah, I don't think they're going to be doing any algebra equations. There's another mommy behind us. Came in to inspect. She's also a little bit uncertain. Well, it's officially end of kids session, so welcome to all the other viewers, wherever you may be in the world. We look forward to hearing from you. Please send in any questions you may have. Kids, you can also continue to send in your questions. Always lovely to get the questions. Chat a little bit about interesting topics of the bush. Remember, you can use that hashtag WildEarth with your questions. That was very cute watching that little elephant. It's like he was doing the limbo, trying to get under that branch. Well, we've literally sat here and had a whole herd of elephants go by us, one by one, each showing varying emotion, varying degrees of peace or agitation. We've gotten to experience the herd dynamic and the emotion of the animals, which is what it's all about. We are so privileged to be able to bring this to you. But as always, we can only do it with your support, your financial contribution. Please follow that link at the bottom of the page. We really appreciate it. And Dini, you've asked how many herds of elephants are there in Djuma? Djuma's not huge, so at any given time there's probably only 2, maybe 3 groups of elephants on Djuma. But throughout the whole greater Kruger region there are many, many herds, many thousands of elephants. Kruger National Park alone probably has near 20,000 elephants by now. I'm not sure what the last count was. Obviously many herds that comprise of all those animals to come to that number. Medpol, you've asked which place in Africa, which country in Africa has the highest population of elephants. If I'm not mistaken, it would be Botswana. They've actually got an overpopulation of elephants, which means that their landscape is rapidly changing. Trees and vegetation are changing very quickly. It is a very debatable topic if it's a good thing or a bad thing, or if it's even an overpopulation or just the way the cycle is going. But either way, the vegetation in Botswana is changing very quickly. It's becoming increasingly arid because of that very high population of elephants that have to eat so much to stay alive. Speaking of a arid region, we're going to send you over to Tswalu Kalahari with a snake track.
So here's the snake track that we were chatting about earlier. Any guesses as to what it is? I'll put my fingers next to it, or my hand next to it, and then it gives you some kind of idea of the width of the snake. Okay, so it's the side of the track is from there to there. So it's not particularly big, but it's not a very small snake either. I'll give you another clue. It's not doing a lot of sideways motions. You know, a larger snake often does that kind of movement. This one's not doing that. What you're going to battle to see from this is the direction. So we've gone through a couple of things here, and we can see the way the sand like over here, that little line there. So the sand has been pushed in that direction, which means that the snake is traveling that direction. So I know it's difficult from here, but if there's any guesses as to what kind of snake this is, feel free to chip in at any time. I'm not going to tell you, but we're going to actually carry on. It's going into this little patch of bush over here. So I'm going to walk around it and see, because this is going to be quite a fun tracking exercise. And we're going to walk around it, see if the tracks come out the other side, and then we'll just carry on from there. All right, but if you want to give any suggestions as to what snake this might be, feel free to chip in. Obviously with a snake, you don't want to go ferrets around. Ah, my word. That was way too easy. So viewers that said puff adder, you all spot on, very well done. I think I'm just going to go home now and just relax the rest of the day because you guys have got this. No, but you're 100% right, it is a puff adder. It's not a huge one, but it's it's not too small. I've no idea what size it is actually, but going on the tracks, it's average. So I'm just going to go around and see if we can pick up the tracks on the other side. They love these kind of thickets and these clumps, but we'll have a look here now. I don't want to obviously walk through there because these puff adders are ambush predators. Not that they're going to eat me, but they'll be, if they're lying up, they're going to be lying dead still, and they won't be lying in the open. So it'll be in any one of these bush clumps somewhere. So I won't walk through them. I'd rather go around first. There's a lot of giraffe that have been walking up and down here feeding on this tree. And you can... Hannah, hopefully one day it'll be a mamba. You've got to be one of the very few people I've ever heard say that, and I'm one of the other few people that'll say that. I absolutely love black mambas. I equate a black mamba, you know, in terms of reptiles, as the same as a shark in the ocean, or a lion in the bush, you know, or a wolf. You know, it's like these big apex predators, and they're absolutely critically important for environments. And out here, it tends to be things like Cape cobras and puff adders, but black mambas are just magnificent snakes, and I personally welcome the day that we find them here, but we haven't found any yet. But yeah, we'll keep our eyes open. Okay, I'm not seeing anything coming out here. So what I'll do is, I could have missed the tracks. I mean, that's especially with my eyesight. But I'll do one more quick walk around, and then I'll start going slowly inside here and see if we can find this little guy. Like I say, lots of giraffe tracks up and down here. We're not going to worry about those. This is where it gets fun, because I'm not seeing anything coming out. We've got a nice set coming in. So somewhere here, and it's not a big clump of bush. It's actually a very small clump of bush. So in theory, unless I've missed the track, that snake is somewhere inside there. It obviously won't be up a tree. Puffies, I've seen them climb onto low bushes to sun themselves, but 10 to 1 is probably going to be on the ground here somewhere. That side of the bush clump is very, very open, the far side. There's just one scraggly little bush, so it's unlikely to be there. We're not seeing anything over here. So it's probably kind of where this bush here is, further that direction there. I think while we're looking for this, head over to Tristan, because this might take a while. I mean, with a puff ad, I don't want to like rush in here. So head over to Tristan, and let's see what they got on that side, and then you can join us again on our treasure hunt here.
And I'm sure there'll be lots of little treasures for you to find. Dylan, seems like Dylan loves to find treasures all over the place. At the moment, I'm trying to track Tingana. It seems like he met up with Kalamba at some point in the drainage last night, or early this morning. From where we found her and she came out is exactly where his track goes. Now, I need to ask a very big favor of all of you watching that watch the dam cam, is to keep a very, very keen eye out on the dam wall, because his last track just pops just over the dam wall, so it's probably why he wasn't seen last night. He came down the dip, and then he just came up onto the edge of the top of the dam wall on the far side, and then dropped in behind it. And it looked like he was down there, and then Kalamba came, and then I can't see where he's gone. The grass is too long. But when I came into this area earlier, there was these impalas, and they were super skittish. They were just kind of like sitting, and then as soon as I got anywhere near them, then they would just run a little bit, and then they would stay in the drainage. And I went down there, and I've looked, and I've walked, and I've tried to see if I can find and pinpoint exactly where he's gone, but the track just goes into this long grass area, and I can't see a thing. It's not to say that he isn't sitting right there. I have this sneaky feeling that he could be lying up, and I've walked past him in one of those dense thickets behind the dam wall. There's these little clustered thickets, and if he gets into that, unless you know he's there, you won't see him at all, even if you drive right past him. So we know he likes to do that. We've seen it with him multiple times, where he gets into these little kind of roundish thicket areas, and all you see is a spot, and that's when you follow him in there. So if you haven't seen him go in there, it's very tricky, but that's fine. We at least kind of know that he's around here. I have seen no tracks going out towards Quarantine, nothing coming out of Twin Dam, so now I'm just checking further south down the Mulawati in case he's down this side, and I would really like to find him today because it would just be nice to spend time with him. I was reminded today of a very special day last year this time, where Hosana arrived back at Djuma. We saw him this day a year ago, coming back into Djuma, and then Pat had him with Tingana, and was it Tlalamba in that sighting? I can't remember. I just remember us being on foot and tracking him, and Rexon was very upset that we didn't find him on foot. But it would be nice, kind of fitting way to find Tingana, because I know he was with Hosana that day, and we know that he obviously is related to Hosana, so it just seems like a good day to find him. But I suspect he's here somewhere. I don't think he's gone far, to be honest with you. I think he's somewhere in this area. There's no tracks indicating that he's walked anywhere else other than into this drainage line. So I am hoping, as it cools down a little bit, we'll start to see him. I mean, it's not exactly hot today, so, you know, he should be moving, but it's Tingana. He's a little bit older, so he spends a lot of time sleeping. Okay, come on, Tingana. Up you get. We're going to need him to put his head up, though, unless he's right next to the track, because we won't spot him otherwise. Daniel, you say you remember that day very well. It was very cool. We managed to find him coming out of Londolozi that day, walking straight north on Triple M, and then we thought he might make it by the afternoon, but more likely the next morning. And don't worry, Alex, don't stress. He actually made it by that afternoon. He walked pretty quickly and pretty far to get to where back to Djuma, and then just straight into the middle of Djuma, and then chaos, as normally was associated with Hosana, as he found all his friends again on the first day he arrived back, which is what we want today. We're going to hope that Tingana is around, and then that Hosana makes an appearance. Imagine that. Imagine Hosana back on Djuma. I mean, it's very unlikely, and in all honesty, I would not even wager one rand, let alone $1 or pound, on Hosana appearing on Djuma today. But stranger things have happened at stranger times, so one can never say never. It would be an absolute miracle, though, if he arrived back on Djuma, I can tell you that much. For a young male leopard to come back here when he's mating and scent marking and those kinds of things, there's almost zero chance of that happening. All right, here we go. We're going to check this entire Mulawati system, all the little tracks that I know Tingana has walked many times before. So while I do that, I'm going to send you back to Eric. I believe he's also tracking. Hopefully between the two of us, we'll have some luck.
We're driving so slowly now just to see if that pride of lions might have moved off from this morning. And I just had the thought of us maybe going there a little bit earlier than I initially thought for the afternoon. And the reason being is I don't want us to run out of time. I don't want it to get too dark. When we get there, they've moved off, and then it takes us a lot longer for us to find them. It's been a very cool day today. The wind has been blowing a lot. And so it's good to just get there early. If they're sleeping and not doing anything, then we can potentially go back there a little bit later, but it's nice to just find them and know exactly where they are. So we are taking I don't think there's any particular rush for us to get there, so we're taking a nice drive. I mean, there's some beautiful, maybe we can just quickly look at a couple of these birds that are on the ground. There's quite a variety of them. Are we doing their own? One bird in particular that is very striking. Metallic blue color that I'm sure Owen will get to right now. There it is. Just look at, and the sunlight is just catching it so beautifully. So as it lifts up its head, you'll see it doesn't have any eye color, or at least a dark eye with quite a dark ear covert. So basically from behind the eye to the bill and a long tail. It's a starling called a Birchall starling, and you often find it on the ground. So it's feeding on little seeds and insects that it might be finding. And I just love the way the colors change. If you can, see if you can look around, I mean, from the light turquoisey blue from the top of the head all the way down to this violety color on the wings. It's not going to, as soon as it turns, if it turns from right to left or something, we might see that beautiful color. It's not going to give it to us. A little bit of the color there now at the very, very tip of the wings, if you can see it. Very busy this afternoon trying to feed up before it gets too dark for it to be active. We got another bird that's slightly further to the right of it, which I'm sure most people would be able to recognize. It's called a blacksmith lapwing. Oh, awesome. It sounds like back up at Swalo Kalahari there might be the animal that you've spent a bit of time tracking there. So let's go across to Dylan and see what he's found.
So we're very, very lucky. We actually managed to track the snake down. I was a little bit skeptical, I must say. That's my skeptical side coming out there, as to whether we would actually get it. But look at that camouflage. Yeah. That is one of the more venomous species that we get here. And it's just lying there dead still, absolutely no threat to us. As it's lying there, it's relying on its camouflage to escape any kind of predation, including any threat that we might present to it. And as you can see, I'm now lying probably a meter away from it. It's not budging, it's not doing anything, it's not being a threat to me. And that just shows you, yeah, these things have, we got very, very little to worry about with these snakes. They are ambush predators. So this puff adder could lie there for days on end sometimes, not necessarily in the same spot, but within that the same little bush clump, maybe just coming out, getting a bit of sun, going back in, going out, coming, getting a bit of sun. And Debbie, it does elicit the response of yikes. I can't agree with you more, and never more so when you come upon them unexpectedly. This one was quite nice and relaxed because we were aware of the snake tracks. We had been following it. We got to a point where we had circled the bush. We knew, okay, well, the snake's in here somewhere. Then it was just a matter of actually pinning down exactly where it was. But the yikes part comes in is when you're walking along, minding your own business, and suddenly there's a puff adder. In all my years in the bush, and it's a couple, I've yet to have a near call with a puff adder to say, oh, well, geez, that thing could have bitten me or almost bitten me. They really major part of the nights out in these environments. But what's going to be really fun with this snake over the next couple of weeks, and I'm not going to make any promises, but we're going to try. Apologies, I just had a bit of a breakup on my comms there. What Yandra and I are going to try to do over the next couple of weeks, this puff adder in a straight line from where we're sitting now is only about 100 meters from where the Meerkat burrow is. So every time we come up here, we're actually going to see if we can follow this little guy and see where it's going, what it's up to, and obviously we're going to involve you guys, and it'll be quite a fun journey with a snake. Let's see, how far is it moving? It's the middle of winter, or approaching the middle of winter. The days are mild, but the nights are extremely cold. And let's follow the snake and see what he gets up to. And I would just like to point out that on this journey of discovery, Melanie is joining us. Roshi, yeah, absolutely. Snakes in winter, they tend to be a lot less active, but they're still around. So we've got no species here that actually would hibernate, but certainly just very, very low periods of activity. So, and again, it really is dependent on the ambient temperature. If you're getting very warm days in winter, which we can get, then snakes can become active and move around a lot. If it's these cooler days like we've had for the past 3 days, they're obviously going to be a lot less active. But yeah, certainly snakes and other reptiles are definitely around and about in winter. How exciting is this? Eh? Here we're sitting, lying close to a predator, a real hardcore predator with no danger to ourselves. It's not presenting any threat to us. And in itself, it doesn't feel threatened. You know, it's just lying there dead still. And there's a good lesson there. You know, they have their place, as do we. And there's no reason why things like this that we can't co-inhabit with them, you know, peacefully. So I think we're going to head over to the meerkats, and let's leave this little snake to do what it does best. And we'll take Melanie with. We're going to move over to the meerkats. Like I say, the burrow system is very close by here, and I think join David with his elephants. That should be some good viewing down that side.
Well, just moved around to have another look at these elephants. What is in the sky there, BK? It's like storks. Can you zoom in there on us? Sorry, we just temporarily going to look at these storks. This is quite interesting. I'll not look at the elephant for a second. I'm just going to get my binoculars out and see if we can see what kind of storks they are. Those marabous. Huh. It looks like marabou storks. I can only really see one. Interesting. Maybe they're landing there. Maybe there's something to eat. We will go check that out as soon as we've spent a bit more time with these elephants. That's a big elephant. Very difficult to get a number on this herd. They're so spread out, and it's very thick here. Also very windy. Sorry if you're getting a bit of wind in the mic there. This cold front has brought a little bit of wind. I think Tristan and I are both in long pants this afternoon. Not 2 pairs of shorts as done in Vrystaat. Hannah, you've asked when can baby elephants start using their trunks? That's a good question, and it makes me smile to think about it. really are cute to watch when they're young, because they don't really know how to use their trunks. It's very funny. It's like flopping around something like an appendage they're not quite used to, and it takes them a while to really get to grips with it. They flop it around. Sometimes I've even seen elephant, when they're very young, will actually drink with their mouths. Obviously they suckle with their mouths, but I've even seen them drink at waterholes, at dams, and with their mouths and not with their trunks. Just one second, I'm quickly going to talk to Tristan on the radio. Here we go. Yeah, send.
Where exactly are you?
Twin Dams Road. Yeah, AFM, I'm about to go in there now. Look like Marabou's there.
You're landing quite close to where I am. I just want to watch if you can look on this track. They're all landing just on the eastern side of the drainage.
Copy that. Oh, maybe there's good news. I'll go have a look now after the segment. But
Keep me updated if I find anything. I can't see exactly where they landed, but it's very close.
sorry for that little interruption there. We're talking about those very cute baby elephant trunks. I wish we could see one right now that we could chat about. But I've only really seen them start successfully using their trunks. Probably, I'm trying to think back now, maybe 6 months to a year where they really start coming to grips with it. Elephants are slow growing and slow to develop like humans. Well, the good news is those storks were marabous. Tristan confirmed that. I couldn't really get a good look, but he also saw them landing, and that generally means that there may be a kill, because marabous actually like to eat meat. So we're going to head straight on there, and that's right in the Moati where Tristan's been following up on Tingana. So let's go have a look, see, and see what we can find. While we do that, we're going to send you over to Ngala with Lion.
So my worries of those lions getting up and moving were not really anything to worry about, because they've moved a total of maybe 20 meters the whole day. It does seem like they've found a really nice little patch that they all seem to be enjoying the sun. And I think all of the lions that we saw this morning are here. The only one that I haven't seen is that young female that we know who has cubs somewhere along this riverbed. And so I would imagine that sometime throughout the day she might have gotten up, and there's a lion starting to get up a little bit. Big stretch. I'm sure after a long day in the sun, the sand will be nice and warm. And we've got quite a strong breeze blowing here, and it's quite chilly. So it might have just gotten up and tried to move to a nice warm patch of sand to warm up a little bit. So I think that young lioness has probably started making her way towards where the cubs are at the moment. And like I said this morning, probably about 1.5 kilometers away. Geez, Froggy's saying a carpet of lions here. If we get an aerial view of them, there would just basically be one long line of lions almost touching one another. A couple that are slightly separate, so there's one in the foreground a bit closer to us, and there's one right at the back that I can just see the top of its head. But it does look like it might be starting to make its way here. So there's that lioness. And completely contrasting to what we had this morning. I mean, they are flat. They've expended so much energy playing around with one another. sure they're all pretty exhausted and enjoying this nap in the afternoon sun. Just after we left the Giraffe, we did find tracks of a male leopard, and it could have been the one that we heard rasping this morning. He started heading in an easterly direction. Yeah, so like I said, the track started to head east and out of our property, and so I think what we'll end up doing is, whilst we waiting for these lions to get active, we'll probably not move around here until it gets dark. So we'll send you across to Tristan and see what bird he has.
Got Marabou storks, which are the same storks that Dave saw. When he was looking at them, I was right underneath them and saw them kind of coming down to land. Now some of them have landed on dead trees, some on the ground. I'm just going to try and see what's going on here. Now with Marabou storks, the reason why it's always interesting to check around is because they are scavengers that eat off quite big carcasses. If you go up to the migration in East Africa, these guys are with the vultures all the time, and they land and they eat carcasses just as much as the vultures do. So when you see flocks of them kind of landing, it's always worth just checking out, just in case. You never know. But in saying that, at this time of the year, often they do flock together, and you find them kind of just walking through the grass trying to find food and looking for food. It's not necessarily indicative of a big carcass. It could be, but it's not always the case. So we're just going to check it out and just see what's going on and figure out why exactly they're here. But while we kind of have this one sitting very nicely with us, I wanted to chat about its effective cooling system. Not that it would need a cooling system at this time of the year. It's a cold day today, so wouldn't have to worry. But if you look at their legs, you notice their legs are white, and that's because they poo on their own legs. So as they defecate on their legs, the urea, which is the white part of a bird's poo, kind of gets stuck, and what happens is as they poo, the wetness of that and the wind blowing, it cools those bare legs, which don't have any scales, cools that down, and then helps to cool the bird down. Remember, these guys are big birds, lots of feathers, and so in the hot summer months they need a way to be able to just kind of keep their body temperature in check, and that bare head as well as those legs covered in that urea just helps with being able to kind of cool them down quite quickly and effectively. They really aren't the prettiest birds, obviously. They have this heinous head. It's pretty rough when you see them up close. In the Serengeti, you have the pleasure of getting them within a meter of where you are, and the worst part about it is those heads are generally covered with blowflies. It's quite something when you see them walking and there's just flies all over their face, and they smell like rotten meat, and really just not something that you would want to be close to. They're really not great. One thing I will say, though, is they have the most incredibly beautiful wing feathers, which you don't see from afar, but if you get close enough to them and the sun hits them, it almost looks like little puffy clouds on their feathers. Obviously dark colored ones, but they have these kind of little circular shapes, and there's a little bit of a sheen to them. Actually really pretty wings. It's just the head and kind of legs that make them look not so pretty at all. But let's just investigate what's going on here. Let's see if we can find the rest of them. I see some more are up the road a little bit, so I'm going to try and just find them quickly and see what they get up to. Not common for us to see flocks of these guys. They're generally one or two. We don't see big groupings of them regularly at all. So to see as many as we're flying is quite interesting. And you can see in the tree up here, lots and lots and lots of them sitting in the tree. Why are you guys all here? What would you be doing in this area? The times that I've seen them flock like this is normally on big open clearings, when there's an explosion of frogs or an explosion of insects that they can potentially go after, like locusts, which we haven't really had this year, so I don't know what would have drawn them to this section. Right, I just want to get around here quickly I'll show you. There's lots of elephant tracks here, but they're not down on the ground. Most of them are in the trees. Okay, it sounds like David has got his elephants. Sounds like they're crossing the road, so before they disappear, let's send you across to him.
Well, Tristan, there are lots more elephants coming to join you. They are slowly heading in that direction. Just crossing the road here on their way down to the Muwati. I hope that something has attracted those marabous. As you may know, they are primarily scavengers and often a good indicator of a kill. But they could also just be going down to roost. We are completely surrounded by elephants. There's a bit of a thicket on our right, but you can hear them all around us. Here come the stragglers. Fortunately, the sun's just a bit bright there. Here's a better look on the other side as they come past us. Very windy afternoon. Beautiful. What a lovely, I almost said zebra crossing, elephant crossing. You know what I mean. Well, let's send you back over to Tristan and see what he's found with those marabous.
As you can see, this is the rest of the flock of these marabous, all kind of sitting in one tree. And what it looks like is it just looks like basically a colony of them that's potentially fledged from the nest. So lots of young ones in amongst that grouping. They don't have the quite bright pink neck yet. It's still a sort of grey coloration. So I don't think there's anything here that we need to be investigating. It would need to see signs of vulture and tawny eagles, battalier eagles, and that would be then a good indicator of a carcass. And with those absent and just these guys, I think it's just that this is just a group of marabous that had been probably breeding in the same area. They often build their nests together and have these colonies where they raise chicks, and it's at this time of the year that the chicks would have fledged now, and they're going to go off and start looking for places to feed and might just be passing through. But nice to see them. I know they're not pretty birds and certainly not everyone's favorite, but they are incredibly interesting in their ability to feed the way that they do. I mean, they eat, like I was saying, flesh and rotten meat, as well as being able to hunt things like fish and frogs and all those kind of things. So they're pretty diverse in that aspect, and just their size is unbelievable. You know, if you think about how big that bird actually is, it's really quite something to see them flying through the sky. I always think that it's kind of defies gravity in some cases. These guys are heavy, big wingspan. So, you know, it's not a small bird by any stretch of the imagination. I think they weigh somewhere around 6-7 kilograms. maybe even more than that, which is heavy for a bird. Most birds are incredibly light, otherwise flight wouldn't be possible. So to have that big beak and those heavy set wings, it requires a huge amount of energy for them to get up there. And like I say, hugely efficient at their job. Now, if you go into places like Nairobi, these guys are very, 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 very common. They hang around all the dumps and the abattoirs and things like that, and you kind of see them in the city, which is pretty crazy. Here in South Africa, it's not quite like that. Karen, you're asking if their beaks are strong? They are strong. It's actually really interesting. When we were in the Serengeti, because we could get so close, you could actually really hear how that beak works. And it almost has a sort of wooden sound to it when it hits together, like taking two wooden planks and hitting them. And so that beak has got a fair amount of force in it when it closes. But more than that, it's the ability for it to kind of stab that it's got. You can see that is a very conical beak that ends in this quite sharp point. And so they're able to kind of stab things out. And when they eat carcasses, what they generally do is target the innards of a carcass. So they're not ones that will tear flesh off like the vultures. The vultures have that hooked raptor type beak. These guys kind of will go in and they'll just stab and get a chunk of meat or a little bit of the innards, and then they shake it and they swallow it pretty whole, and it fills up that big crop that they've got. Now, if you look at most of these birds, they don't actually have big crops at the moment, which is also indicative of the fact that they're not feeding on something here. If they were here and there was something and they were disturbed and they'd flown up and then landed again, we would have found that their crops would have been quite large. And I'll try and show you what I'm talking about. Here we go. There's a good picture of it. So if you have a look at this particular individual, you'll notice how full they can get on those crop areas. Our ones are not quite like that. They're like this. You see this one is kind of empty, and then you get that when it's all filled up with meat and various other things. And very common to see them sitting like this, actually. A lot of storks do sit this way, which is pretty weird to see. All right, Marabous, we're going to leave you guys to it and let you carry on with your day. We've got Tingana duty to continue looking for him. I'm actually just want to quickly shoot up to Buffelshoek Dam in case Klalamba has come around that way. Although it sounded like she walked quite far north. The guys were telling me that they didn't see her after we left her, but they found her tracks, and they were still going north on a road called Sour Plum, which takes you quite deep into Buffelshoek, but it might be worth just checking the dam. She might have done a loop during the course of the day. All right, while I do that, though, let's send you across to Swalu Karahari, see what Dylan's up to. No doubt up to no good off of his vehicle at this stage.
So we're still waiting for this female to come out again. She pops into the burrow, out the burrow, in the burrow, out the burrow. Obviously, the pups are okay in that. But, you know, it could be quite a long wait again. Or she could literally pop out in the next 30 seconds. But this is what it's about, for these babysitters, you know, that constant vigilance. Or what's happening over there. But it's... just saying that, you know, if the meerkat goes down the burrow, the babysitter, yeah, you're going to try until we, does that help? Yeah, if she goes down that burrow, you know, it could also be that you can get a predator coming in another entrance, like a snake, and if that burrow is connected underground of there, obviously we don't know that. But you know, she'll just keep on checking, coming out. I'm hoping that the rest of the clan that have been out foraging actually come back fairly soon. I've no idea what time that'll be. When it was very cold and windy the other day, they were actually back by this time already. They arrived back an hour earlier than today. So it's just going to be... And they could actually come from any direction. So keep your eyes peeled. In the background, you might see them popping up. Let's just sit and wait and see what happens over here. That snake that we were looking at earlier, that puff adder, straight line from here, from these burrows is about 150 yards north of us, so it's very, very close. And that is a species that these meerkats will mob if it comes close to these burrows. It's very, very commonly encountered, puff headers going down and coming out. Tree Frog has just asked a interesting question as well. Do meerkats get mange, or can they get mange? Absolutely, meerkats can get mange. Again, that's just my own personal experience. I've never seen that on swallow, but it's certainly not impossible for them to get mange. And obviously, you get different kinds of mange. Some are a lot more contagious than others. But yeah, I've never seen that on swallow. We have seen the odd other animal, notably things like jackal, but very, very, very infrequently. It's certainly not a common ailment out in these areas. So peaceful sitting here now when I'm not talking. I feel like a meerkat. Just like sunning myself here. It's nice and warm now. There's a bit of a breeze picking up, but it's not bad. I would guess probably around about 22, 23 degrees centigrade. I must work on my maths, my conversion to Fahrenheit. That's probably going to help. Don't see any sign of the rest of the clan yet, but we're just going to wait it out over here. So head over to Eric at Ngala and follow up on what they got there.
These lions haven't moved at all, actually. They've seriously been enjoying the afternoon sun. We are starting to get to the time of day where if they were to be wanting to move, they'll start showing signs of activity, and so that's why we decided to just stick it out and be patient. And one of the things that both Owen and I are most looking forward to is, they were calling this morning, and we think that we heard another one calling in the distance, and it could be the brother of one of the dominant males. And if they start calling, it will be an absolutely incredible sighting. So I think it's worth just being patient and sticking it out. See that male lion that Owen had it looks like he's the most comfortable he's been in the last couple of weeks, and I'm sure he's very grateful to have familiar faces around him. There's a couple of stretches every now and again going on. See one of the white paws just sticking behind the other one there. And again, such a unique perspective, because we don't really get to see them sleeping at eye level like this. We usually look down at them, and so it does provide quite an interesting shot. Pretty much the whole riverbed now is covered in shade, and so the sun is just going to start setting. We'll lose most of the sun, and then from there it'll be nice to see if we get some activity from them. Kira, that's a good question. What is the ideal temperature for lions, or what is a good one? And I think with lions, the cooler the better generally. I think it does get to a point, if it's too cold, they won't want to move around too much, and that's why I think they've decided to warm up in the sun. But I guess, if in the teens, so between 10 and 20 degrees Celsius would probably be ideal conditions for them. I think another factor which will actually help cool them down a bit more is the wind, and they really, really do enjoy moving around during windy periods of the day. And the reason being is it's just so easy for them to go unnoticed, or it's much easier than it is if it's a still day. because I mean the wind starts swirling around, it takes their scent in different directions, it muffles their noises as they're walking through the long grass, and so it's quite easy for them to sneak up towards something that they're wanting to hunt. And so they are, if it's a cool, windy night, there's a very, very good chance that they might try and hunt something. Oh, big stretch. Even covering her eyes. So we've stuck around and we have had a very good count, and I think that lioness who's got the 2 cubs has moved away. We were so hoping that maybe she was going to introduce the rest of the pride to the cubs, but they're still maybe a little bit too young. Jim, yes, they mostly hunt at night time, but they are very opportunistic, and so they will hunt pretty much whenever they get a good opportunity. And these lionesses, the one that's in frame at the moment, she is a very old, experienced lioness. If you look at her nose, it's completely black. You can't really quite see it now, but she's starting to lose a little bit of that beautiful tawny color, and it's becoming slightly more gray, especially behind the ear there. And she's in the region of about 14 years old, and so she's incredibly experienced, and she'll probably know the best conditions to hunt. So her and her sister are the 2 lead females, and they'll just direct the rest of the pride, and you know, if they've got a good opportunity or if they've got a direction that they want to move in, the rest of the pride will just follow. I mean, it's not too uncommon for us to see lions hunting in the daytime, and it's just what I was going in towards. You know, if the conditions are good, if it's cool, if it's windy, if they've got a good opportunity, then they'll definitely try their luck. But because the male's just picked up his head, the young male's just picked up his head to have a look, probably at that one last female. He's looking so regal. That mane is starting to develop really nicely. Still missing a lot of mane behind his ears and on the top of his head there. So quite a lot of stuff to grow, and this is just what we were wanting to see. You know, there's a little bit more activity. There's a few females that are rolling around and stretching. That male's got his head up, and hopefully, you know, they start noticing each other getting active, and so they'll probably hear each other rolling, maybe hear the yawn every now and again, and then all of those will be little signs and triggers for the rest of the pride to continue getting active. We've got a question from FC, if I'm not mistaken, asking how long it will take for the mane to completely develop and grow. And it will usually be in the region of about 4.5 to 5 years when that mane is looking really nice. And I mean, when they're 6-7 years old, that mane is really big and beautiful. It does vary, the size of the mane does vary. I mean, the dominant males that we have in this pride have got relatively small manes and quite short manes. I've seen lions with much bigger and longer manes. So yeah, it just depends. But from the age of about 5 years old, their mane generally is pretty good. Another view. So we spent a bit of time looking at that one lioness who was sleeping, and this is her sister. And she's just picked up her head again, and again, very, very dark nose. Can just see in her face, it's just got lots of experience. And so she's just picked up her head for the first time this afternoon. Head slightly up. You can see it's testing the wind, maybe trying to pick up on any type of scent or anything like that. They tend to walk into the wind so that they can smell anything up ahead of them, and then also their scent kind of goes behind where they're going. Nice. Yeah, she's looking beautiful, and just look at how strong she is. I mean, those shoulders are absolutely ginormous. It's got so much muscle. A striped horse, you're asking what the probability of a white lion giving birth to a white cub, and I mean, it depends on the father. So if the father's got the gene, then I would say it's a very, very strong possibility. If a white lion male mates with a white lion female, the cubs are going to be white. If it's a tawny male that has got the gene, got the white gene, and mates with a white female, there's still a chance of the cub becoming a tawny, but it's probably a greater chance of it becoming white. If it's two tawny lions that have got the recessive gene, it's about a 25% chance of them giving birth to a white cub. We only realized that they had the gene, or at least we started figuring out that they could give birth to white lions in 2018. And we've been with this pride, or the pride has been with us at least, for at least 10 years. So like I said, the signs are looking good. There's a few more rolls around, there's a few more stretches, there's a few more yawns, so we're not going to be going anywhere. Hopefully we get the whole pride roaring in the next couple of minutes. So in the meantime, whilst we're waiting for that, we'll send you across to Tswali Kalahari.
Guys, this is super cool. The pack has just arrived back. Literally, like a minute ago, has arrived back. So now they're just checking the burrows. The alpha female was in the front. She's just gone down that burrow where the second one's gone down now. And then the youngsters, these are youngsters from the previous season. You see the tail up. They're actually very, very aware of our presence, but they're not worried about us. And the babysitter's still underground. So this is super, super cool that we were actually that privileged to be here when they came back. Obviously a critical time for the group at an approach to the burrow. It's a wide open space. They're vulnerable to predation, and they don't know what's happened at the burrow system during the time that they've been out foraging. Yeah, for all they know, there could have been something that went wrong here. A caracal could have grabbed the babysitter, or an eagle, or there could have been an incident with a snake. So obviously when they get back, they're very, very nervous, looking carefully. But we can actually hear them below the ground. Well, I can hear them from where I'm sitting below the ground. I think the thumbs up has been given. The mother would have gone, or the matriarch would have gone down to suckle them. And Penelope, quite correct. Their features are delicate, very finely built animals, and yet also very robust. I've actually found a number of meerkat skeletons over the years and years that I've been in the Kalahari, and those have normally been around large raptor nests, ones that have been eaten, and their bone structure in their skulls are very robust, as one would expect. You know, they being predators. But long faces, almost dog-like faces. See the matriarch's down with the babysitter and the male. They're all down below there, just checking that everything's okay. And she'll obviously suckle him now. You know, she's just got back. They'll be a little bit hungry. I know I'm probably out of frame, but I'm not going to move because I want to disturb them as little as possible until I know the others have come out again and that they're happy that everything's fine. Jennifer, you say you love them? I love them too. And who can't love a meerkat? They are absolutely adorable. Barbara, meerkats can have more than 1 litter a year. It's very, very, very rainfall driven. which obviously in turn impacts on the prey base. So if they've had good rains, you can have a litter in January, February, and you could even have another litter again in October, November. The other thing that would impact on that is if something happens to the litter, which is, it's nature. It could happen. You could have a burrow collapse, you could have predation on these youngsters. A lot of things can happen to them. And then that female will actually come into heat again pretty soon after that and have another litter. So absolutely, they can have more than one litter a year. So on small mammals like this, that's not uncommon. I used to have pet rats many years ago, and they're just the coolest things on the planet. And rats can have more than one litter a year. Yeah, I had rats as pets. Strike force, their closest relative are related to the mongooses, so they actually are a kind of mongoose, Herpestidae. And so any of the other mongoose species that you've been seeing on WildEarth, I think they had some banded mongoose the other day and a slender mongoose. At Swallow we got things like a yellow mongoose. Up in the mountains or the hills here we've got one that's very, very infrequently seen called the Cape Grey mongoose. And so any of the mongoose species, even the ones in India, the big water mongoose, we get them in Africa as well. Mellors, Selous, there's lots of mongoose species, and they're all related to meerkats. I'm so chuffed that we saw these guys coming back. I'm just going to walk over and see what the puff had. If there's any, I don't think it would have moved now. I'm just going to look out of interest. And so in the meantime, head over to Tristan.
Well, we're at Buffelshoek Dam now. It's fairly quiet. Sun is just gone, unfortunately. It was so nice because it was kind of a perfect spot just on the hippos itself. You can see it's on the bank now, so it has just unfortunately left the hippos, but they were like in this little spot of light. It was really, really pretty as they were sitting there, and they were kind of spraying every now and then. And as we were sitting here, a little young bull elephant has snuck up behind us. Hello, boy. What's he doing behind us there? I wonder if he's the start of the herd or if he's just on his own. You can hear the ever-present little grebes calling as well. The nice thing about our Buffelshoek hippos, and I don't know if anyone's seen this hippo, I can't remember anyone talking about it, but there's a little baby hippo at Buffelshoek now. Has there been a baby hippo at Buffelshoek for long? Londeke, do you know? But you can just see its little head there. So there's a little baby one. I mean, it's not a huge hippo, but it's certainly, I mean, not a tiny baby, but it's certainly a small one. I don't remember seeing a small hippo in Buffelshoek Dam, which is really cool. It's nice to see that there's a little one here. It's not as small as I think what David had this morning at Chitwa Dam, but still little, and it's quite funny to watch it. I think it's a bit deep where it's sitting now. So it climbs on its mother's back, and when mom moves, this poor little one has to move as well. You can see mom's nose kind of just went up and then down again. So look how cool that is. Are you just sitting on your mother's back, having the best time? Pretty. So nice just to sit here and listen to them breathing. I'll keep quiet for you guys to hear better. That's very rude, elephant. I don't know if you guys picked that up, but our elephant just made a little whoopsie behind us and blew off some steam, so to speak. So I don't know if it came through, but yeah. Where was that bit of gas pulled up behind you there? So I believe you guys could hear something very gassy. That is where it was coming from, is that cheeky little boy that's chasing the starlings. Leave the starling alone. It's not doing anything to you. Young bull elephants, they're always so naughty. They end up chasing starlings and doing all kinds of other things. Poor birds. Gremlins General, you said you did notice. I thought you might have. It wasn't exactly incognito, was it? It was a serious amount of gas that was let off there. It's amazing how you're trying to have this quiet, peaceful moment at the dam, listening to the natural sounds, and typical young boy has to ruin it with you know, he's probably chuckling at this stage, having a good laugh at himself and his little faux pas that he's just had on camera. Or he's shy now and going to move away. But there's definitely been a change in the last few days of driving around, not from a point of view of temperature, but activity at waterholes has changed a lot. Starting to see more and more the big waterholes being used by elephant and buffalo and those kind of things. And the more I've been driving around in the course of the last kind of few days that I've been here, a lot of the smaller little pans or mud wallows have dried completely since I've been here. So when I first got here, there was a little bit of water in them, and they're now all starting to dry up, and that's going to suck a lot of animals towards these bigger dams, and it's going to start becoming easier and easier to find congregations of animals. So sitting at a dam like this, you'll have elephant come in, you'll have buffalo, you'll have kudu, waterbuck, whatever it may be. They'll start to kind of filter in, and you'll get a lot more activity around the big waterholes than what we have been having. So it's going to be really important to utilize these going forward. I think these are going to be little hotspots, particularly Buffelshoek Dam. Hello, cute little face. That is very, very cute. Now, if you want to see what plays out at all of these waterholes, we were discussing this morning, but if you do want to see, it's going to require a little bit of support from all of you, because we're going to need your support in order to continue through the winter months and into the summer, where you'll get to see the seasons change and how these dams really kind of change and become into their own during late winter periods. And you just need to follow the support link below, and you'll be able to get all the details for it. And like I said, it'd be most appreciated and really nice for you guys to see it. This, you cannot believe what this can look like. This particular area, let me see, I might just maybe have a photo. I haven't posted this one on my Instagram yet, but I will at some point. Let me see if I can find it for you guys quickly. Just have a nice look. Alex, if you can do a nice wide shot of Buffelshoek Dam, because when I show you this, you guys will be probably fairly shocked at what it looked like in November of 2018. Okay, so that's what Buffelshoek Dam looks like now. Now from this, it's not quite the same viewpoint, but if you had to turn the car around and face the opposite way and then look down into the dam in November 2018, that's what this dam looked like. There's a leopard crossing the dam. It was just dry, cracked mud. So all of that water that you see behind us had filled up in the beginning of this year. That's what it looks like when there's no water. It becomes this kind of cracked, dry, muddy area. That's Hosanna. This was a very cool day that we had. He was hunting baby Egyptian geese across the cracked mud. It was pretty cool to watch. But that's what this eventually will end up looking like. It will change completely from water like this to a much smaller area, although I don't think it will dry up like that photograph this year. There's too much water, and the temperatures are already plummeted too much to have huge amounts of evaporation that will pull that water down to nothing. But it will drop a lot, and it has dropped already a long way. If you look on the bank where the hippos are, just above them, there's a water line that is on that bank, and you'll see just where the water was during the kind of height of this dam and how much it's already dropped. I think there's one of our little grebes, past a little baby. The two babies are making friends. That's so cute. I love how these baby hippos sit on the back of their moms. You see that? It's literally balancing on top of its mother. Cute, man. A baby hippo is a cute thing. Little one, you're going to fall off if you're not careful. That's uber cute. Shame, man. Frigates, I'm afraid it's not great what hippos do during the drought. They try and search for water, and they will go as far and as wide as they can, and unfortunately many of them do succumb to a drought. It's something that is hard to watch. If you're a person that likes nature and things, hippos that end up getting forced out of waterholes like this have to go and try and find other places, and eventually you actually start to see them just in underneath bushes and in little dry riverbeds, trying to just seek shade more than actually being in water, and trying to survive from there. It's really very, very, very difficult for them, and I always feel terrible for hippos during a drought period. There was a number of hippos that died during the last drought, the 2016-2017 drought. And in fact, Buffelshoek Dam had hippos prior to that, and unfortunately they then disappeared from this area, and where they ended up, if they survived, we don't really know. It's an unfortunate thing that happens in the drought. The drought is a really, really, really hard thing to watch. Seeing animals going through a period of almost severe suffering in that they lose condition. More elephants are arriving. I was going to leave Buffelshoek Dam, but we might as well just sit here. There's just one thing after another. I heard some Franklin's alarm calling, so you never know. Maybe something else arrives here. Come on, Tundi, bring us your 2 cubs and come past here. Let's have that. Wouldn't that be nice? Tundi and the 2 cubs, and then Tingana from the other side. A herd of elephants. Then we would be winning, I think. Oh, there's a tiny, tiny baby little elephant coming. You see it there, Alex? Let's see if it's going to come out. All right, well, it sounds like we're going to be losing the light at... So the elephants make their way...
So all of them disappeared down those burrows, as you saw earlier. And what's interesting is we were chatting yesterday about, well, one of the viewers actually asked, are these burrows connected underground? And I answered, well, some of them are, some of them aren't. And we've actually seen that really, really nicely now, where the burrow on the far right that they went down in, they actually popped up, where the ones that Jandre's got in shot now, they popped out that burrow and the next one to the left. So there's at least 3 burrows in a row here that are connected underground. And I think the youngsters are somewhere down near the middle one. But I have nothing to base that on, but just the fact that the adult female came out that burrow after suckling, and now she's standing right near that entrance. But how beautiful is that backlighting as well? But they are so sleepy. They've had a long day out. Just got so much personality. I love the way sometimes their teeth stick out from between their lips. Sorry, my comms broke up there a little bit. I was just saying, I love the way their teeth stick out through their lips occasionally. You can actually just see them between the top and the bottom lips protruding there a little bit. Very, very cute. And again, facing directly towards the sun to warm up before going to bed. tomorrow morning when we join them, they'll be back facing east again for the sunrise. But I know a couple of little meerkats are going to have a good night's rest tonight, so sure. They are so sleepy, these little ones. There's another one that's just come out on the far right over here. That's the little male, and he's going to do some bit of burrow maintenance there. While this little family is getting ready to go to bed, head over to Tristan and some elephants.
Well, we do have some elephants. There's the tiniest little baby in here. It looks almost newborn. It's very, very small. You can just see it underneath its mom's chin. It's quite wobbly still. Doesn't look very sure-footed at all. And you can see it's got a little bit nervous around the water. Don't fall backwards, little one, because you'll fall in the water. It still fits under its mother. I mean, maybe not as young as a newborn, maybe only 2-3 months old, I would say, but it's small, that's for sure. But look how cute that is. That is very, very sweet. I'm hoping that it decides to come over the dam wall, and then we should get a really, really nice view of them sort of coming over. But isn't that just sweet? See, it's trying to have a little drink. It's still at that stage where it's actually having to lift its head quite high to drink from its mother. So it's still very small. A sweet little thing. I didn't want to get any closer than what we are now. I felt like we were more than close enough, and you know, when they're little like this, they get a bit twitchy around water, and particularly when it's been as windy as it has, the moms can be a little bit funny. They don't really like their little ones being around cars and things like that if it's been super windy. So can you hear her talking? You can hear lots of ellies around us. I heard some trumpeting just now, so I think there's quite a few more kind of coming, but for the most part they are just enjoying having a small drink in that corner and then going back into the thickets to feed. So I'm hoping that we're going to see more of them come down just now. But very, very, very cool to have had a little baby like that. I didn't see where the mother with the baby went. I think they're just behind the tree still. Because I'm hoping they come up on the dam wall, because if they come up on the dam wall, what I'm going to do, you can hear a trumpet of another elephant, is I'm going to just drop onto the side of the dam wall, and we'll have them almost at eye level walking past, which will be very, very special. I've been wanting to have that with elephants, and I've never quite gotten it right at Buffelshoek Dam. I've gotten it right with Hosanna twice here, and with an Avoca male, not with WildEarth, but on a private trip. But I've always wanted ellies kind of walking along this dam wall towards me, and so maybe today we'll get it right. Oh, ellies are making lots of noise. Something's upsetting them. Okay, well, we're going to sit here. We're going to see if our little baby elephant comes up on the dam wall. In the meantime, though, let's send you back across to those meerkats. They haven't quite gone to bed just yet. Thanks, Hippo. There it is there. Oh, look at this baby little hippo. It's like baby overload cuteness. It's got its mouth open and it was yawning at its mother, almost play fighting. Oh no, it's got back down now. Let's just see if it does it again. But it was standing up and it was yawning at its mom, and its mom was yawning back at it. So it's like baby elephant or baby hippo. I don't know which one to even watch at this stage. Both of them are being equally cute. Unfortunately, they're not coming up the dam wall. They're walking away. I thought they might come this way, but they're not. You can hear more of them coming, though. Trumpets are getting louder and louder. Right, now, seems like the guys have sorted out their audio, so we're going to send you back across to them, and I'm going to go investigate why these ellies are trumpeting so much.
These guys are so close to going to bed. These three little ones are dead tired. They made a very weak attempt at some play, but you see the one on the right, when he's not grooming, he sits up and then he starts like falling over. This is when they become really cute. You're gonna see now. The little adult male, he's just gone down the burrow behind them, and every now and again you'll see dust kicking up. So he's just going to keep on maintaining those burrows, doing the homework or the housekeeping chores. I think Mom's got her hands full with the little pups. And they'll normally be down the burrow before the sun is actually set. You know, it's related to temperature gradient. So even though the sun may be up, your ambient temperature could be dropping quite quickly, in which case they'll go underground. Joy, these pups that have been born now, it seems that from our Meerkat habituators, when they located the group, that they were probably born 3 days ago, 4 days ago. So these ones definitely haven't been above ground. And then these three miscreants that are sitting above ground here, they would have been born near the end of last year. Probably November last year. October, beginning of October last year. So these new pups are, and I think, well, they're going to come out in about 3 weeks' time, and that's why it's going to be so exciting keeping track of this particular group, that we can actually see and we can be when those little pups come out for the first time, because then you're going to see a new level of cuteness. Shame that. Idiom Meerkat, it's called a Meerkat colony or a Meerkat family. A troop of meerkats is also correct. Of course, you get all these other collective nouns for animals, like a journey of giraffe and a dazzle of zebra, you know, those kind of things. But it's, you know, from a scientific perspective, that's not correct. You know, you'll talk about a herd of zebra or herd of giraffe. But collective nouns always kind of grab our imagination because they're really descriptive and fun, and it's always cool ways of using words, you know, terminology like that. But this is a meerkat family, a meerkat troop is correct. Colony. Yeah, Landeka says a mob. A mob is a very, very good term for these meerkats, because when you see them actually, that would be a nice collective noun for them, because when you see them actually going for a predator, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a snake or another group of meerkats, for instance, yes, and then they just pack together and they mob and they mob and they mob and they mob. So that's not bad. The little one at the back's doing his yoga. See his feet in the air. He's having a good groom. So like any animal, that maintenance of the coat is important. You know, that constant grooming. Any kind of parasites, making sure the hair is in good condition for thermoregulation, camouflage, very, very important. Yandra and I, we're just going to sit here and wait for these guys to go to bed. So while we're doing that, head over to David in the Lowveld and see what they got on that side.
Managed to find some zebra. One of my favorite animals to look at out here. Their striking pattern. It's no wonder they're called the dazzle of zebra. They are dazzling. You may have heard the old story about how the zebras got their stripes, but it's always worth telling again. According to the Bushmen, way back when the world was created, the zebra were completely white, and very, very proud of them white coats. And Mr. Baboon was a bit ugly and a bit jealous. So what he did is he invited the zebra over to his campfire, and Zebra said sure, he'll come enjoy the warmth of the campfire with the baboon. But what he didn't know is the baboon was a trickster, and he put some rocks around the campfire hidden in the grass, and the beautiful white zebra came walking up to the campfire all proud. I'll leave you in anticipation of the end of the story while we reposition so we can get another look. And this beautiful white zebra stallion, so proud of his snow white skin and coat, walked up to this campfire. And right when he got to the edge of the campfire, he tripped over the hidden rocks and fell into the fire. Burned black stripes all over his body. He was no longer snow white. And the baboon laughed and laughed and laughed. And that is how zebras came to have black stripes. Although, I don't know. I think completely white zebra would look a bit funny. I think the baboons helped them. Really, Ruby, you've asked why do you never see a thin zebra? And it's an interesting observation on your part. They always seem to be a bit fat, even in the middle of our worst droughts when there's no grass to be eaten. Zebras always seem fat. And it has puzzled people for many years. And the reason for that is that zebra are hindgut fermentators, meaning they are bulk grazers that require a digestive system that is constantly digesting and fermenting grass, and that fermentation process gives off a lot of gas, so they're very bloated. That's why you often hear fart when they run, similar to horses actually. But those stomachs are always bloated, even in the middle of winter when their general grass diet is depleted. most animals, when they are under-conditioned or very hungry, they get skinny, it's noticeable. But zebra, their stomachs stay bloated because they still have to have that huge gas build-up for their digestive system. And the only real way to tell that a zebra is losing condition is you actually see their mane. You can see that one has a beautiful mane, it's standing up straight. That mane actually starts to fall to the side because the fat in their neck area along their spine that holds up that mane actually depletes, and that hair starts to kind of flop down. That's a very good indicator that a zebra has lost condition. A very good observation there, Ruby. That's the reason that they always seem to be so fat. Striped horse, you've asked a question. Or was FC just pulling my leg? That is just classic. I often call them pajama donkeys. Some people call them disco donkeys, but striped horse is most certainly another name for them, so what a coincidence. You've asked what is a zebra's top speed. I'm not actually 100% sure on the top speed. If I had to guess, it'd probably be in the region of about 60 kilometers an hour. But I'll have to look that one up for you. They are quick when they gallop. FC's giving me feedback. Google says 64 kilometers an hour, so my estimation of 60 k's an hour is pretty good. Around that. Just a little bit faster than a lion can run. So if a lion was to catch a striped horse, I mean a zebra, sorry, not you, then it would have to have the element of surprise. It would have to be able to pounce on it and grab it before it could actually get up to its speed and run. And even then, it would have to be quite careful because zebra can deliver very powerful kicks similar to a horse. And if they catch a lion in the jaw, it will be very detrimental for the lion. So they can be very feisty. Stallions that fight often injure each other quite badly when they kick and bite. Well, lovely to spend some time with the zebra. It sounds like Ngala has got some action. Let's go see what's happening.
I think action is a pretty loose term to use for these, but yeah, they are starting to get a little bit more active, and they're starting to move around a little bit more. There's more grooming. A few individuals have gone up to go and groom each other. There's a few that have gone to go to the loo. See the beautiful night sky behind us, a deep purple color. This lioness has been looking at the opposite bank for the last while, and we haven't quite seen what she's looking at, but she seemed pretty focused. For now, she is starting to lose attention. I think she's not really focusing too much on what was happening on the opposite bank. So basically the only lions that have really started to show a bit of activity are the 3 females that we can see around here. The cubs up there have really just been moving around each other and keeping each other nice and warm. So there's a lion triangle. So I think it will just stand up and then it will try and reposition again. What we're waiting for is just that one lion that was calling in the distance to call, and then hopefully all of them will just start. It will be quite an incredible sound. I've had male lions calling around my vehicle before. I've had 1 or 2 females calling. I've had a male and a female, but I've never had a male lion with 4 females calling. And I think that's exactly what was happening this morning, and that's why I'm pretty desperate for at least some of them to call. So there's another very, very good sign, and that lion is now going to the loo. Our wind is pretty good, so luckily we're not going to be smelling too much of what's going on there, but I don't think it's too bad. It's just a wee. It's going to come to this older lioness for a bit of attention. No, it's not. And that's the young male there. He's had his head up every now and again, and I think he's just making sure that the pride isn't moving away without him. And so he picks up his head, he sees that they're sleeping, and then he just basically puts his head back down again. But as soon as they show a little bit more movement, he'll start following them. Jant is asking how far a male lion's roar can be heard, and it depends on the conditions, I guess. On a night like tonight, the wind has started to settle down and it's starting to become very cold, and sound will travel much further in cold conditions. So, I mean, humans have been said to hear lions calling from at least 8 kilometers away. That's roughly 4.5, 5 miles. But I'm sure lions would probably be able to hear other lions at least double that distance, so 16 kilometers, maybe even closer to 18 kilometers if the weather's good. And that call is just, I mean, it's to mark their territory, but it's also to find one another. And so within this pride over here, there's 2 dominant males. This male could eventually call out for his brother, and then the rest of the pride might join in. I think the only one that wouldn't join in would be that young male. He wouldn't want 2 big dominant males potentially coming into the same area at the same time. I've done my very best to scan with my binoculars on the opposite bank, look for any sign of movement, and I haven't seen anything that this lioness is so focused on. And look how wide her eyes are. See, and this time it's not only her, the rest of the pride has reacted. There must have been a noise that she heard. We're just going to quickly switch over to infrared, so you'll see a slight different color change. Just look at those people. Those eyes are wide, the pupils are still very narrow. I wonder what it might be. I mean, I can see an impala finally at the very, very top of the bank. So I think it might just be an impala that spurred their attention. It is a male, and so, I mean, maybe they were even hearing it way before we did. But it's right at the top of the bank on the opposite side, probably about 100 meters away. So, I mean, this lioness that we were watching a bit earlier is the experienced one. She'll know that it's not really too worried about going after it. And those ones standing or facing away from us are the 2 white ones. They've been cuddling up to each other the whole day. Bit of a sneeze. and just look at how clean they are. I mean, they're so much cleaner than they were this morning, and so they must have done a lot of grooming. Big yawn. The interesting thing is that they're facing straight in the direction of where that lioness has got her den site. So I've just got these visions of you tomorrow morning watching the whole pride meeting the cubs for the very first time. That would be an incredible sighting. The curiosity of youth had just walked over to a rock and padded it to see what it was. And now, Linda, it is very precious, especially when they're behaving so nicely like this. I'm just going to back up a bit. There might be a bit more interaction with these. How's that, eh? This is fine. So when? So these are the few ones that have come down from the sandbank and are practically lying in the river. And so we've got the middle-aged lioness is the one on the right-hand side with 3 cubs, and then one of the older, more experienced lionesses on the far left. So the first one on the left-hand side, the one that's just yawning. How this one has got its paw just draped over the bank. There we go. She's up. Another big yawn. Luke, you're wondering if there's going to be a lion hunt, and I think so. I mean, the way that one lioness was so intently staring at that impala, she was definitely weighing up her options, thinking about, if it could be a good opportunity for her to try and hunt. And she obviously worked out that it wasn't, but that doesn't mean the hunt is over for the night. It's literally just beginning. And so all of these lionesses are noses up, they're smelling, they're hearing. They're just trying to take in as much information as possible. See, so this is the old, experienced lioness. Doesn't look like she's wanting to move too far, but she is moving a bit further than she has the whole day. Yeah, Owen's just commenting that we are now in the perfect position to be hit by the smell of what these lions have left behind, and it's hitting us quite strongly. Okay, so now we have 2 lionesses on the move, with the big male looking, and one of the older, the older lioness still looking, and now they've just sat down, so we are completely surrounded by lions. Got lions all over us. See this one here, this one's just walked past our vehicle and laying down. Looking in the direction of that impala still. And then there's one directly behind us. So these 2 lionesses that have gotten up and moved are probably just putting their feelers out. I suppose, around the pride there's lots of smells and noises that the pride is moving as they're yawning and rolling around. And so just separating themselves just gives them that opportunity to be able to just take in some smells that aren't lions. Alamo, you saying that you're saying that this is awesome. It really is. Especially because we've taken the time and we've sat here for 2 hours or so waiting for this exact moment for them to be up and moving around. And it's a slow process. They like to hit the snooze button a lot. I guess they don't get out and spring straight out of bed. It takes them a while. They get up, they start cleaning themselves, they might move, then they rest again, then they get up until eventually once everyone is on the same page, they might decide to stick to a direction. So these two little cubs are just taking in our vehicle and just watching us. Every single time we take a quick little shift when we move in our seats, they just focus in on us. At this distance it's perfectly fine, but if they come a lot closer, then we'll just maybe start the engine or just try and tap the vehicle to deter them from coming close. At this age it's all cute and well when they come and start touching our vehicle, but when they're 200 kilograms 2 years down the line and they've gotten into the habit of coming up towards a vehicle, it's when it can be a little bit dangerous. So if they do decide to come and investigate us a bit more, usually just a start of the vehicle or a tap on the bonnet or something like that will deter them, and then they realize that we're here, but they can't come and touch us. Someone's falling asleep again. Just love how subtly those ears move. If you just watch how they slowly start twisting. No, Catherine, it is a very sweet face. I was just mentioning now that we're so close up, you get to see those little subtleties, the slight movement of the ear, closing of the eyes, and those small little signs will probably be quite a clear communication between the rest of the pride. And behind the ears, I'm sure you all know that they've got black. I'm going to get out the shot here. They've got black behind the ears, just like this one we can see. I think I'm almost touching the black ears there. And so that just helps them see a lot better. And so a flick of the ear here and there might mean different things, different signals to the rest of the pride. So they can communicate with one another without having to vocalize. As soon as they start calling to one another, that gives away their position, and then the hunt is effectively over. So this one's up. I'm sure it will walk straight past us. If it does come any closer, see, now watch, I'll just start the vehicle. Okay. So there we go, it's just taken it, it's got the signal from us that it can't come any closer, and I might have to do it again. But whilst we're trying to deter this lion from taking a bite out of my chunky thighs, we'll send you across to David and see what he's doing.
Welcome back. We've just quickly popped across to Simbambili to see if we can see anything or find anything. So far, just a zebra. It's been a lovely sunset. Got a lovely view of the mountains. Watched the setting sun. Now it's time for nocturnal life to come out. We're not too far from where we last saw trucks for Hukamuri, so maybe we get lucky and see him on the road or on a termite mound. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. Well, it sounds like Tristan managed to catch up with those buffalo from this morning that we were looking for, so let's send you over to him and see what they're up to.
We have indeed, David. I don't know if David had them or was looking for them. we've with a big bull elephant and a herd of buffalo that are slowly making their way to the Gari Dam in front of the camp. So those of you that watch on the dam cam, you're about to be inundated with subjects to look at. We've got a hippo, we've got buffalo, and we've got an elephant. And hopefully Tingana is going to make an appearance as a last-minute leopard in amongst all of this. Wouldn't that be nice if he just pops up onto the dam wall here because of this elephant and buffalo movement? I would so love that. His truck went right where I'm parked right now is where he kind of went. He just went over the back behind me. I've had him there quite a few times lying in that area. Just kind of pops down into behind the dam wall here and kind of does his thing. So I wonder if he's not still just lying somewhere here. There's definitely no tracks to indicate that he's left, but it's not to say he hasn't. Hello, Dewey. Good evening to you too. I think I might have interrupted Dewey coming out for the evening by coming over the dam wall. He was right up against the dam wall, which is not ideal, but he'll find another spot. There's at least lots of places for him to exit. Maybe he was just interested in hearing the buffalo and the elephant, and that's why he had come close to the dam wall. But here you can see the buffalo just coming across the dam wall now in front of us. They're going to go down and have a little bit of a drink and head to the corner of the water. Go a little bit closer for you, Alex, because it's going to be difficult with the infrared for you to see. So we're going to just try and get to a point where we can actually see them a little bit, because it is quite dark now. I've obviously got my lights off. What is that? I see an eye in the distance, just one. But I want to just use my binoculars to see what it is. Imagine if it's Tingana, but it doesn't look like it because it's not binocular vision, so it wouldn't be what. Can you see anything there? Maybe a scrub here. It's moved off. I don't know what it was. It's a nightjar flying, that's what it is. Sorry, Alex. Just saw his eyes, but it's quite cool with the buffalo. They're actually lining up in front of the light that kind of works for the infrared, for the dam cam. So that's that light there, but it's quite kind of ghostly to see these shapes moving in front of the light. It's not something you'd normally see when it comes to buffalo at this time of the day. But that's how we're able to actually pick up a lot of the things that walk around here in the dam camp, particularly the dam wall. It just highlights things. Dewey's not impressed by the buffalo arriving at his waterhole. He's thrashing about. Dewey, your peaceful evening just got ruined. You've got an elephant, you've got us, you've got buffalo. Not pleasant for poor old Dewey. He's going. I wonder if he's going to chase these buffalo. Let's have a look what happens here. I know he's done it before. Look, he's just kind of motoring straight at them. Look, look, look. Are you going to chase them away? Exactly, there's a stare down of note taking place at the moment. How crazy is this? We've got 3 of Africa's biggest herbivores in the exact same spot. As what I was alluding to earlier, is that these... Look, look, look. So that's all a display to try and intimidate these buffalo, to say to them, I'm not happy with you guys here. Don't want you at my waterhole. Stay away. But obviously you can see the buffalo are in no way perturbed by his nonsense and are just carrying on with their day. And there's still a lot of buffalo to come. This is a very, very small fraction of what's on its way. I can see they're still coming up from Twin Dams Road. So we're going to get quite a lot more arriving as we sit here. What I want to do, Alex, I'm going to just go forward a little bit just to get this light out of the frame, because it's going to mess with Alex's shot quite heavy. So I just want to go forward a little bit. I obviously don't want to spook the buffalo too much because they might panic and run. But if we can just get to a point where we don't have that light in the frame all the time. It will really help. So Chris, you're saying Dewey is saying this dam is not big enough to accommodate all of us, or the 50 of us. Yes, not happy. This is what it looks like when a hippo has a temper tantrum about sharing. He's clearly didn't share much as a child, and is having a little frothy about the fact that he has to share his waterhole now. It's been so nice just him on his own that he's now getting a little upset by this fact, and so he's having a little meltdown. Dewey, play nice with your new friends. Don't get upset with them. They're not doing anything to you. And get used to it, because there's going to be a lot more of them coming every day as it gets drier. Look at him, he's getting closer again. Isn't the sound just incredible? Oh, goodness. So I educated our directors this afternoon about a song that's called Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick, neither of which had any idea even existed. And so they're commenting that I should teach the buffalo about Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick, and Dewey as well. They thought that I was playing the fool when they told them about that song, but I most definitely wasn't. It is legitimately a song, and it always reminds me of a friend of mine that I had at school. He used to always quote it. I don't know why, but he did. It's quite cool with the sort of side light on them, and then the glow of the infrared from outside of their eyes. It makes them look quite creepy, with this sort of little bit of illuminated face and glowing eyes. Makes for an interesting, almost like a horror movie in some ways. Well, what's also interesting is how we keep having buffalo at Djuma, except when the Nkuhumas are here. Nkuhumas are here, no buffalo. Nkuhumas are gone, buffalo everywhere. It's a weird dynamic at the moment. And the Nkuhumas are well and truly gone at the moment. I got an update about them today. They are miles away. They were seen by the Singita guys. Apparently they're all the way close to the Nyati-Ottawa break, which is the opposite end of Ottawa, so the far western side of Ottawa, which is a long, 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 long way from where we are. So I don't think we'll expect the Nkuhumas anytime soon. I reckon it's going to be a good couple days before they arrive back this side. All right, well, I'm going to sit here and just enjoy. I mean, like I say, we've got elephant, we've got buffalo, we've got a hippo. There's a potential for a leopard in this area. So while we enjoy this and just take in the sights and sounds, let's send you across to Swali Kalahari. I imagine their sun is starting to set. And I wonder what Dylan's up to now.
So we're just ambling along here. There was a report a couple of minutes ago of cheetah in this area, and so we're just going to amble along here, see if we get any visual. It'll be a bit of luck. The light is dropping very, very rapidly now, and the other thing here, this is slap bang in the core territory of the Mokala Meerkat group, so you're driving off-road, you've obviously got to be very, very careful about that as well. So we're just going to go slowly along here, and hopefully we'll be lucky. The sun is now set, so we're losing light now as well. Good old eagle eye Yandra is on the back here. Won't miss a cheetah. Shudulusan, I have seen king cheetah, but not on Swalu. I've seen them actually in that Ngala, Djuma area before. Very, very rare sightings and beautiful animals. And interestingly, to the best of my knowledge, they've actually never been recorded north of the Zambezi River, king cheetah. So that's quite interesting in terms of genetics. Someone asked me yesterday in terms of what were the population of leopard and cheetah numbers left in the world. So cheetah, the population standing on an estimated between 6,000 and 7,000. Leopard numbers are actually globally currently very poorly known, but there are more of them than cheetah. The challenge is you've got 9 different subspecies, recognized subspecies of leopard, and of those a number are critically endangered, very, very small populations of them. So yeah, I wouldn't say either species is doing particularly well. But anyway, our light is dropping, so we're going to focus on either trying to find tracks or getting a glimpse of these cheetah off to the left here. So head back to David with the leopard sighting.
And our gut feel paid off. None other than Hukumuri walking in front of us. Busy marking his territory. He just gave a territorial call a few moments ago. Hopefully we get to hear it again. Super happy that we managed to find him. The last couple days since he left his kill, I saw his tracks in different places. And then this evening we thought we'd give it one last try in that region, and it has paid off. Gonna start up and go. Gizmo, you say this is so cool. It is epic, eh? So cool to see him again. Remember last time we saw him, he was eating that young impala. Now he's busy doing his territorial rounds. I'm just quickly going to make a call on the radio. Give me one sec. I've got Dokumuri on via tele-access heading east. Give him some light there so you can see a bit better.
We do.
Let me see if we can get ahead of him here in the bush. Have a look at him from the front. Michelle, you say that walk, only the hook. I agree. It's got a very unique walk. That ragged face of his, worn by many epic battles. How many cubs has he sired? How many fights has he been in? Brutal fights with other leopards to keep his territory, perhaps expand. many animals has he caught? How many injuries has he sustained in the hunt? This boy's got a few stories to tell.
Dave, come in, Dave. What are they? Dave, are you guys going to leave shortly, or will you take a standby for it?
Let's go. Get ahead of him again.
Yeah, so I was thinking Dave, WildEarth.
Yeah, boy, I'm sticking with him. I'm the only vehicle here. You're welcome to make your way. Still on Word Tele access, not far from Triple M, heading east.
Okay, copy. Yeah, we're a little bit far out, but I would like to respond. Thank you.
Copy, we'll hold him. I'm hoping he gives us a little territorial call in the next couple of minutes. Let me put the lights back on, otherwise I can't see the road. Even though we've got infrared. I'd rather not drive without my lights. Get ahead of him here again. I do know Davy absolutely loves this leopard, and it's just reminded me that they are doing an Instagram live after this afternoon sunrise safari, so please join Lauren and Davy as they talk about Ethiopia and wolves. And that will be at WildEarth Official. Well, this is super cool. We're definitely going to stick with him for a few minutes longer. I want to see if he gives us another territorial call. Well, this has been an absolutely epic sunset safari, and I would end it no other way than following the hook down the road. It's been lovely spending time with all of you. Wherever you are in the world, we wish you a lovely day further. Until then, cheers. I thought